Fishy, fishy, fishy!
What's going on, fishy friends? Alright, Rich here with a long overdue fish room update. In quite a while, I feel like, since I've had a chance to talk about anything down here. There are definitely some signs of neglect. I got plants growing almost as far out of the 20 long as in. Matter of fact, these plants are turning into complete terrestrial, essentially, where all they got are the roots underwater. This is what neglect looks like in a fish room. The female Lepisto is still in this tank as of yesterday. I don't see her right now. But I've just been so busy, and honestly, I've neglected the normal maintenance that I typically do on this particular tank. Insofar as I haven't been trimming the plants, I haven't been fertilizing the tank. Obviously, plants are still growing, despite the lack of fertilizers. But once that male Lepisto died, I don't know, I honestly was a little bit, heartbroken isn't the right word, but I was a little pissed off, frankly. That was a death that I can't attribute any reason whatsoever to, and anybody who follows along might remember I had a breeding pair of Pistogramma cockatoides triple reds, quite a stunning male, and he up and died on me, and I've neglected the tank since. I've neglected the fish room in general since, honestly. Just been so busy with life, hadn't had time to do most of my normal stuff. Conversely, in this tank over here, the 55-gallon planted tank, I've slowly but surely been adding some of the larger angels. That one on the left there that just dipped behind the plant, and that one looking at us are the two larger ones. That one to his right has been in this tank for quite a while, along with that one right there. So we got the big guy there, and the big guy here. These came out of this tank behind me, where I still got 3 quite large angels left. So I've slowly but surely been acclimating the angels and trying to move them all over here. And since doing that, I've noticed quite an improvement in the growth of these plants. This red tiger lotus has kicked back and sent up some nice red leaves. This thing had been suffering. The whole tank in general, not that it was doing bad, but the plants weren't thriving. Now, part of that's my own fault. I do inject pressurized CO2 into this tank, and I had been dosing fertilizers via the EI method. And I had stopped dosing fertilizers altogether in each and every one of my tanks. Man, I'm not even sure when. 6-8 months ago, maybe even longer than that. And clearly the plants, they didn't die, but they lacked their fast growth, and they just weren't doing so well. Adding these extra angelfish appears to have given the extra dose of nitrate that the plants really need. I think I was just starving the plants, basically. I didn't have a big enough bio load in this tank, and I wasn't dosing fertilizers, and the plants were suffering for it. And now they're doing well. All that, I'm pretty sure that's Cryptospiralis in the back there. It's only 1 or 2 spirally leaves, but that's all of a sudden exploding. The red tiger lotus is exploding. Some of that Vesuvius back there is doing real well now. This crypt, I think it's a Wendy, up in the front is doing well. All of that moss has exploded. I did some filter maintenance and some tank maintenance in general, and took out a lot of the floating riccia. That floating riccia went all the way across the middle of the tank, and was floating all the way over to about this corner, right where you sort of see the reflection of the lid right there. So I took out a huge wad of that, which is now allowing the light to get back down into this area of the tank. Let's see if I can get, if I tilt my light out of the way here, I think you get a slightly better idea of what this tank looks like. It's one of those tanks that, because of the setup of my room here, and because of this little corner where there used to be a closet, it's very difficult to get a good full tank shot. Then I've also got the glare off of the discus tank over here, and the angelfish tank over there. Do have some curtains hanging on a string over here that I had hung up with the intention of helping me film and take better shots, but it's up and out of the way right now. So let's see what else. So like I said, I moved a couple of the angels out of this tank. That leaves me with 3 in here, that I do plan on moving these guys into that 55 behind me as well. Got the breeding cone in here, but I've never seen any breeding activity from these fish. Apparently my fish room is where breeding stops. I'm not exactly sure why. Down here in the discus tank, everything looks pretty good. The big guy looks real awesome. The second biggest guy looks pretty good, but gets some very dark peppering. And then now what's my third and smallest in here is starting to show some of the same issues with his gill that the discus that I lost out of this tank is. Getting some flickering, like they want to start spawning maybe. That'd be interesting. Let's see, if he turns around you can see this gill, which is pumping away. And if you look head on to him, he's only breathing out of that one gill, and I don't know why. I've treated this tank for parasites to include gill flukes in the past. Theoretically, that should have eradicated anything that was affecting this tank. I don't know what's going on. I have some plans to try to combine all my discus. The two over here, it's real dark down here in this tank, I don't have a good light on it. The two over here are doing real well. They're about as big as they're going to get. They're definitely not the biggest discus in the world. They're not winning any prizes, but they're pretty decent fish. And I don't want to throw an infected discus that might have parasites or whatever could be wrong with it. I don't want to mix them up yet. So until I figure out what's up, I'm still reluctant to switch all the fish around. So my end goal is to get all the discus together in one tank, probably in this 55 for a little while, and eventually turn my 72 bow front into a planted discus tank, which means I would rehome the rainbow fish somewhere. And the rainbow shark. Picked up some cardinal tetras recently. I got 5 left for about 3 or 4 weeks now, so they should be doing pretty well. My intent is maybe to go buy a lot of like 25 cardinal tetras off Aquabid, and hopefully raise them up, make sure they're good and healthy, and then keep a planted tank of discus and a nice big school of cardinal tetras. I think that would look pretty good. But I've neglected this tank insofar as I haven't been taking care of the plants. I let all these floating plants just go crazy, and it's blocking out the light to the bottom. It is in no means aquascaped or doing well in that regard. The tank's good and healthy. It's a good environment for the fish. It's just necessarily not the most visually appealing tank in my fish room, or in anybody else's fish room for that matter. So that would require me to start fixing what's going on in there, which eventually I'll do. And then I would also throw the breeding pair of red Turks into the same discus tank. And I would throw the breeding pair of red covers in as well. These guys have spawned again for me once or twice. I might be catching them in the act right now. Nope. Never mind. Scared them off. Not going to happen now. Someone had wisely suggested that I put a wire mesh or something around the cone the next time these guys spawn for me. They have spawned since I last updated, and I didn't prepare, and I don't own the correct wire mesh. And whatever I do have that might serve that purpose, I wasn't quite sure if it was fish safe, so I opted not to use it. Needless to say, the eggs lasted 48 hours and disappeared again. Let's see, the 2 German blue rams over here. There's my male. And where's the female hiding? This is only a 10-gallon tank. It shouldn't be very hard to find her. There she is. Now these two had shown signs of pairing off when I had them in the 29-gallon tank over there with a bunch of other rams. But lo and behold, once I put them into this tank together, which I think is a suitable breeding setup for them, I got no activity from them whatsoever. She kind of goes and hangs out in that cave once in a while. She'll chase after him, and he seems uninterested. And then the next day, he'll be chasing after her, and she seems uninterested. So, I think the timing is just off right now. I'm going to let them continue doing their thing. That's interesting. She was in the cave, and then he just jumped in, but neither of them are staying in there very long. The other 2 rams I got over here are doing well. That's definitely a male, and I'm pretty sure that's a male too. But the fish are doing okay. They're in a big 29-gallon tank all by their lonesome for no real reason other than I had more fish in here a while ago and I don't anymore, and I'll probably move them around somewhere else eventually. The Tiger Turks, the juvie discus, they're growing, they're putting on size, they're looking good. Except all of a sudden the past 2 days they're all huddling over here in this corner. I hope there's nothing wrong with this tank that has gone unnoticed on my part. But no reason to fret yet. Brine shrimp. This is a batch that I started yesterday. I'll probably scoop these out tonight and feed some various fish in the fish room with that. The Epistogramma Cockatoides triple red juveniles. It's interesting. This tank is a filthy, filthy mess. I do a lot of water changes, but I don't really scrub the glass or scoop up all the detritus and all that. Some of these fish are starting to put on some size and actually starting to look like what they should look like. And I can't even see them right now. There they are behind the dirty glass. Some are still super, super tiny. Not exactly sure why I'm seeing such drastically different growth rates out of these fish. I got all these fish at approximately the same size. They were very, very, very tiny when I got them, much tinier than I ever expected, which is neither here nor there, but I would expect they would have all grown at roughly the same rate. It could be that the males are growing a little bit faster, or bigger I should say, than the females. I don't see the other two in here right now, which are even smaller than that guy. So I'm not exactly sure what's up with that, but the fish seem healthy. They are very, very, very slow growers. I'm very surprised how slow they do grow, especially compared to, say, other Apistogramma species. In this tank I have Apistogramma trifasciata, and they're growing pretty well. That one I believe is going to be a male. He's starting to get a little bit of color on him. These guys aren't nearly as colorful as the Cockatoides triple reds, but they are still a beautiful fish. This tank I'm treating more like a typical Apisto tank with just a whole lot of driftwood and mulm and debris. I don't really have leaf litter, but you know, I let everything kind of build up in here. You can even see the camera wants to focus on all that brown algae on the glass. It's not really diatoms, I don't really know exactly what it is. Cherry shrimp tank. The cherry shrimp are doing quite well. I don't have them congregated because I'm not feeding them right now, but for all the problems I've had in the past keeping cherry shrimp, this tank seems to be doing much better than it has in the past. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them hanging out upside down, 5 of them hanging out upside down on some of that floating plant mass. I got the 2 male endlers in here. I can't say for sure that adding in those 2 fish is all the difference this time compared to other times. I was concerned that maybe the shrimp just weren't enough of a bioload to keep the beneficial bacteria in the filters alive, so I threw in a couple of male endlers, and in the hopes that they would, you know, produce a little bit of waste and keep that nitrogen cycle going and keep the beneficial bacteria fed. Again, I can't confirm that it worked, but it's working, so I'm not going to change anything. And I got cherries in almost every tank down here doing well. Down here in the endler tank, I threw 3 red cherries in here. Obviously there is some breeding going on. They're difficult to find with all the activity with all the endlers in here, but there are quite a few red cherries in here as well. I threw some in here that don't seem to be doing quite as well, but I have seen some babies in here also. I don't see any currently. And I also threw a couple up here into the tank with the neon tetras. We'll call it my tetra tank. I got neons, 1 single Perstilla tetra and 1 single black skirt tetra. And I don't see any juveniles in this tank. There's a good chance that the tetras are eating them if there are any. But I've got at least 1 adult right there. Presumably there's 2 more adults hiding in here somewhere, and they're just difficult to find. Sometimes I would find them hanging out underneath the driftwood there, between the sand and the driftwood, and right now I just don't even see anybody. Anyway guys, I think that's about it for now. I am going to go do what I got to do, edit these videos, and see if I can't get them up. I'll finish up making a Fishy Friday video. Let's see, today's Thursday. I'll probably post this video on Sunday. I took some footage a little while ago for tomorrow's Fishy Friday, and that'll be up tomorrow morning, and this thing should be up on Sunday morning. So happy Sunday to everybody. Go get some rest, don't go to work. Comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later.